Good morning and welcome to the little apartment on the prairie. Today I am finishing putting together my application for food stamps in the state of Nebraska, and I think in most states you have to reapply once a year. When you get approved for assistance, it's only good for a year. You have to reapply. It's the same with my housing assistance, and those types of assistance come from two. You bring your Kong and I'll give you a treat. Don't sit over there and whine. You bring it here. Come on. So those types of assistance come from two different agencies. What did I do with Isaac's? Here it is. I knew I had treats over here for him somewhere. We found the Kong to our great relief. If you noticed, if you remembered the other day when we couldn't find a Kong, we found it. And we have a piece of chicken to put in it. Yum, yum. And Sassy says she likes chicken too. Okay, so for housing, you also have to fill that out once a year. And I wanted to show you, for people who've never applied for that kind of stuff, all the stuff that they want. Partly because some people just don't know and it might be interesting, but also because I often see people, not in the comments on this channel, but just in life in general, who seem to think that it's really easy to get assistance and that you just lie about how much money you make or whatever and you get assistance even though you don't really need it or qualify for it. And that's not really the way it works. I'm sure some people do lie. Actually, I've known a couple of people that lied on their food stamps application and they got caught. And it's actually a crime. It's fraud. They have a criminal record now. They had to pay back any money that they got that they weren't entitled to. And I think maybe a fine, and maybe had to do community service. I don't know exactly. But in many states, including Nebraska, if you get convicted of fraud in that way, then you can't qualify for assistance for a couple years after that too. So, you know, some people lie, some people probably don't get caught, but you have to provide proof of your income. But say maybe you have two jobs and one of them you babysit or you mow lawns or whatever, you get paid in cash. Look at these two cats. And so you think they're not going to know, so you don't put that down on your application, but they look at your bank account. Like one year, a friend had sent me via PayPal a couple $100 for a car repair, and they saw that on my bank statement and wanted to know what was that money for. They said maybe we'll have to count that as income. Well, the rules say that if it's a one-time gift, it doesn't count as income. If a friend said, I'm going to just give you $200 a month every month because you need help, that would count as income. But if it's a one-time thing, it doesn't. But I had to look it up in their own handbook and point out where it said that. So if you've got money going into your bank account that's, unexplained, they're gonna ask where it's coming from. They also want proof of how much you pay for rent and stuff like that. And so, if it seems like you're paying more for rent than you should be able to afford, cat fight, on the amount of income you told them you had, they're going to ask you how you're paying your rent. So some people probably lie and don't get caught, but it's not that hard to get caught. So for my food stamp application, there's a 6-page form you have to fill out, and that doesn't seem bad, right? Then they want a bank statement. They want proof of how much you pay for rent. I have to send them this year a copy of my car title because I have a different car than I used to have. And it occurred to me that they might want proof that I sold my old car. The last time, this was back when I lived in Ohio, but when I sold a car, it broke down and the junkyard came and towed it away and gave me $100. They wanted proof that I'd sold it and how much money I got for it. Then they wanted to know what I did with that $100. They wanted a receipt to show what I spent the $100 on. I don't have. Well, I guess maybe I have a copy of the check that they gave me when I sold my car this time. So I guess I have that if they want it. I don't know. Sometimes they want stuff that is hard to provide. So I have that. Then what some people don't realize is that if you're disabled and you have medical expenses, they calculate those. You take those into account when they calculate your benefits. But you can't just say, I spend this much a month on, prescription medication. You have to show proof of it. You have to have receipts. So I'm going to show you my huge stack of receipts. If I can get this thing over here. I have receipts for every medical expense that I've spent for anything for this year, so for 11 months. This is a stack of papers that I copied with all my receipts. It's almost $3,000 in medical expenses that I pay out of pocket, and that's gonna, they'll subtract that from my gross income, and then I'll qualify for more food stamps, but they have to have all these receipts. I don't know how I'm gonna mail this crap. Last year, I think I put it in a flat rate, like priority mail envelope, but maybe I didn't have as much as I did this year. This is just the receipts. It's not the other paperwork. So I'm not sure it's gonna fit in one envelope. It's gonna be expensive to mail it. I could drop it off in person, but because I live in a rural area, I'd have to drive an hour to drop it off somewhere in person, so it's kind of easier or cheaper to mail it. In addition to all those receipts, I'll show you what else I have. I have a mileage log because your medical mileage counts. This is 5 pages of this. Mileage that you go when you drive to a doctor's appointment counts as a medical expense, but you have to have a log. So I have the date where that I went to Walmart, and here's the address of the Walmart I went to. I went there to pick up prescription medications. I have my starting mileage, my ending mileage, what that totaled 89.6 miles because there ain't a Walmart anywhere near me. And then I have what documentation I have that proves I went there, which is the receipt with that date on it. For every trip for something medical that I went on. I also do a spreadsheet that just shows my medical expenses. There are, I think, 8 pages of this. It's got the date, where I bought something, like I bought this from Amazon. It was magnesium citrate, which is a vitamin that I take because I have a magnesium deficiency. I spent $17.27 on it, and I paid for it with my debit card. And I had that for every medical expense. Now, because I have like vitamins I can buy on Amazon, I have to have a written prescription from my doctor for those, so they know they're medically necessary. So I have my prescriptions from my doctor. Service dog related expenses count as a medical expense. My dog's on a raw food diet, so I have a letter from the vet that says he's on a raw food diet and explains what that is, so they don't think I'm buying ground beef and beef hearts and pork kidneys to eat myself, but they understand that that's for my dog. At one point in the past, my previous landlord, we had an issue after counting all my service dog related expenses for several years. They decided they were only going to count those that they thought were necessary. So they didn't want to count any treats or toys. So I had to get a letter from Isaac's vet and from Isaac's trainer explaining why service dogs need treats and toys. Really, all dogs probably need those things, but they had to explain why as a service dog those things were necessary. So I have those letters. This is all the stuff, and I have to do this every year to get my food stamps. And last year, what I got for all this work was $77 a month in food stamps. There have been times in the past where I got as little as $16 a month, and this is the work you had to do to get it. So I'm really grateful for the assistance. I need it. There was a time in the past where I didn't need it and it wasn't worth doing all the work for $16 a month. But then there was a time when I did need it. So if you had to do all that work, it was worth doing it. But this, you know, and could I lie about my medical expenses? Maybe. Could I, like, I don't know, doctor up some fake receipts? Maybe. I mean, Isaac's back for another treat. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to fake it, and it's going to be a ton of work. And is it worth it for the amount of assistance you get? I don't know, maybe to some people, but that's what you do when you need to get assistance. And I have to do something very similar for my housing. And it turns out that for me, both those things are due at the same time, because I moved to Nebraska and got housing assistance and food stamps at the same time. So it's kind of convenient, at least, that it's at the same time. But it's a ton of work. And like I said, I don't even know how I'm going to mail this crap because it's so big. But it's, you know, you do what you got to do when you need the assistance, right? And if you didn't know, if you're getting food stamps or housing assistance or anything, if you didn't know that your medical expenses can be factored into the equation, they can. Sometimes they don't tell you that. Sometimes the person you're talking to doesn't, the county office doesn't even seem to know that. You might have to point out to them that a service dog counts as a medical expense, but it does. So anyway, that's what I wanted to show you this morning. I hope you're all having a good day. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay safe out there.